Oh, hello and welcome to what is the first episode of ADHDarts, a project I've decided to start and use as a sort of a vlog for my personal experience of trying to get better at this game while, as it turns out, being encumbered by untreated ADHD. I was recently diagnosed in March. It's something that I have had and struggled with all my life, and a lot of things in retrospect have made sense. And during my monologuing through these various things, you'll get little insights from my perspective on it, obviously. So why this and why darts? Well, it all kind of just happened, really. I've never really been an avid darts watcher or fan, but I did grow up very much enjoying a game show on British TV called Bullseye, which is a quiz show centred around darts, and it has a bit of a sort of cult classic kind of following still in the UK. And my wife and I got to watching the rerun episodes on Challenge TV. And I think offhand comment at some point I just mentioned, well, I wonder if I'd be any good at darts. I've always enjoyed playing on the odd occasion. I've been in a pub or whatever, and I've been aware of like past greats like Eric Bristow, Jockey Wilson and Bob Anderson and all those types of personalities, but that was as serious as it got. And sort of coinciding with the rise of Luke Littler and everything else, my wife surprised me on Christmas Day for various reasons, which I won't go too much into. We had done we'll take care of the kids, won't bother with each other until like after Christmas or whatever for gifts. Well, my wife, being my wife, surprised me on Christmas Day with this. And I'm just going to put it up here for comparison. And this was a nice cheap dartboard from Aldi. And I put it up in my living room and started throwing darts at it. And discovered I loved it. And a fresh new hyperfixation was born at the time. Now, I'd suspected I had ADHD for a bit. I actually went and saw my GP about it in 2023 and was promised a referral, and stuff didn't happen. I chased it a year later, and then the referral actually happened, and then fast forward to this recent March, I actually got my diagnosis, which, as I say, it made a lot make sense. Also some anger and some mourning for what could have been had it been picked up sooner and treated and what have you, but c'est la vie. I'm not the first to be in this position, and I certainly won't be the last. So that dartboard quickly got replaced with my Winmore Blade 6, which is still in the living room where we'll all play. And as a consequence of becoming somewhat obsessed with the sport, I got into playing online. I'm in a pub team, and it's just sort of exploded. And I have noticed there are upsides to having ADHD with this. Like it's caught my interest, so I'm engaged, and I've got a hobby that I can share with others. It also has its downsides, because the thing to keep in mind with ADHD, for anyone who doesn't know, it is a condition revolving around dopamine and either my brain's inability to take it up, to absorb it, or produce it, which brings with it all kinds of issues. But there's also things like I have less working memories. The amount that I can hold in short-term memory while doing something is more limited than people who don't have such conditions. I don't like saying normal people or neurotypicals, because it's just a different brain chemistry that many humans have, and it has its advantages. I'm great in a crisis. When urgent stuff's happening, hyperfocus kicks in. One of the downsides, especially when you're new to a sport like darts, is when you throw a good dart, you get a dopamine ping. Like, that's a good dart. That's not a bad dart. That's probably the best of the three. Things like that happening make happy noises happen in my head. But the consequence of that is I'm constantly seeking all those perfect darts, which that's not a realistic proposition when you've only been at it for just over 4 months, like I have. So when wayward darts happen, and I'm really trying to make one happen, there we go. So I wanted to follow that. Because I'm talking it through, I understand what's going on. But in the moment, especially in a game, that second dart will make a white hot rage start wanting to flash and build in the back of my head. It's called emotional dysregulation, negative outcomes, especially when you're putting pressure on yourself or trying to be good at something or feeling like you're being judged. Really disproportionate. It's like that first T treble 20 dart, yeah, great. Feels great in the head. That second one, disproportionately bad. And it's something to manage and be aware of. Anyone who's played online with me lately is probably wondering what the hell these darts are that I'm throwing. Well, these darts are the first darts I had. Again, bought for me by my wife. Not with these flights, they had the usual paper stems and stuff. These are Winmore Navigator 3s, 23 gram, 90% tungsten, I think. Really, really good starter dart. Now, again, the nature of ADHD, constantly changing things, constantly getting new stuff. I've been through about 8 sets of darts, so that's getting on for 2 a month. Thought for this inaugural episode I'd go back to the beginning, put my spare K-Flex on these and have a chuck. And if there's one thing I'm learning right now, it doesn't overly matter what dart you're throwing, because I can throw those with any of the sets that I've got. Though I do have sets that I like, sets that I don't. I've gravitated toward darts made by Target, and the main reason for that was I bought a heavier set of Winmore darts, Winmore Blackouts, 26 grams, which are the heaviest dart I've owned. I don't have them anymore because when I got good grouping with them and they collided with each other, I noticed they were making, like, they were damaging each other. Little shards of metal was coming off the grip on the rings, to the point that I actually jabbed and got my metal splinter stuck in my finger. So I went off Winmore and moved on to Target darts, and I think the first set of Target darts I bought were these Cult Envies, which are a really pretty dart. Unfortunately, these are 24 gram. I could never quite get my throw quite right with them, but I was gripping the dart differently then. And the one thing I like about Target darts is you can change the points, so you can customise the point that's on them. This one's in quite tight, but yeah, the points just unscrew. You can put different points, different length, different types of points. And the quality of them, I don't know how well you can see this on the board camera, but the quality is just stunning. So I was hooked on Target's darts from that point on. I also prefer their K-Flex moulded flights to the Winmore ones. The Winmore ones are very brittle and mash up, whereas these are quite flexible and you don't get as bad a deflection with them. And then, so these didn't work out, which is when I then moved on to my Phil Taylors. And in typical ADHD fashion, I'm not quite well prepared because they're in the other room, so I'll just go and get them. And these are almost unrecognisable from anyone who knows the Phil Taylor style of darts, because the only original thing about these is the barrel. And that's when I determined I was interrupted by somebody at the door. I'm sure I'll fix this in post. Yeah, so I sort of found I was better because I used to grip a dart like that and was always never sure what to do with my pinky finger, so a lot of the time I ended up Eric Bristow in it. And now I can't even throw that way because I've not thrown like that for quite some time, because I switched to gripping at the rear of the dart, because my wife has a set of Windmill Blackout 2s which are sort of torpedo bomber barrel shape, and I found gripping at the back, the darts sat in the board much nicer, because I like them to stand up rather than be too flat, because when they can stand up I can see them better. And I found that I quite like gripping the rear of the dart, and my darts stand up like that. But because I also am like a magpie with collecting new things for hobbies, of all the darts I own, these are my favourites, because they are just stunning, beautiful darts. I love everything about them. I love the colour, I love how they feel, I like how grippy they are. I'm not normally a fan of the colour blue, but they come with, these aren't the original flights. The original flights are a short stem number 6. I prefer slightly longer because it catches on my hand on release sometimes otherwise. And a number 2 flight size. These are my favourites, but I don't always play so well with these. And the reason being is I have some issues with releasing the dart that the extra grippiness on these really punishes my release error. But when my throws with these click, I don't think I've grouped a set of darts better than I've grouped these when I have done some good throws. So that's kind of how I got involved into darts. As I say, first episode, I'm going to go with the first darts, because they're where it all started. After a little while, I joined a pub team and then started playing darts online. Shout out now, so my wife obviously got everything started, but the other thing that's inspired this and has really got me into and loving this sport, despite all the frustrations I have with it, is Matt Tizzy of Darts Matt. I'll put a link in the description for him. He started a similar process of just recording videos about his own journey in darts, and of course as I got started I wanted to consume everything I could about darts, so I've been watching old darts matches and started stumbling across like home YouTube dart players and so on, with Darts Matt being one of them, and some of his advice was invaluable. And I got involved in an online league that he manages, which is again my own challenges with ADHD and controlling emotions started to prove a challenge. but I've always liked what Matt's had to say about the sport and his experience and what have you. Another shout out I'm going to put in here is for Samson Does Darts. Again, just cataloguing their experience of trying to get better at this sport and just enjoying watching someone with a camera and a dartboard go through some of the same difficulties I do, because in the moment when it's going bad, my emotions react like I'm the only person who throws bad darts, and it can become quite a crushing mental pressure. I know logically, afterwards when I think about it, I know it's all nonsense, but it's not always easy to control in the moment when my brain's desperately seeking the dopamine hit of that good dart and it's just not coming, and the pressure builds, so the darts get worse. And in match situations, that is a killer. It's like I'm aware I'm putting myself out there right now. My hand's getting a little bit of shake to it, but it just is, and it will go. I've found now it will go as I expose myself to it more, because playing online, and I think because I've played with mates in meaningless games in pubs in the past, I got a little bit of nerves playing pub league this season, but nothing like the pressure I felt when I was playing online league darts, which is baffling to me because I've played games online before in other pursuits, other video games, and it's never really been an issue. But something about there being a camera on what I'm doing, I'm broadcasting it to people, just gets in here. So that's why I've started doing this as part of a process, just to get that exposure, desensitize myself to this stuff, and then the ultimate goal, of course, is not only to track my progress with throwing these things and getting better at it, but also hopefully to see what happens and how things hopefully improve when I am medicated, because I'm waiting for treatment. It's not, here's a diagnosis, off you go. I'm finally in the process of being treated. It just takes time. Oh, that was nice. Ooh. Oh, that last one. Yeah, so there's nothing particularly fancy I tend to do here. It's going to be mostly me waffling like this from, as you can tell, inside my garage / gym. There are some good moments. I have already filmed some bits and pieces. This isn't the first one I've filmed, but it is the first one I'm putting up to actually explain what this is all about and why it's a thing. I'm not really looking to monetize anything. I'm not seeing this as a I'm gonna get really big on YouTube. It's just one thing I struggle with. This helps me stay analytical and reasonable when I'm doing this. And I did initially start a journal where at the end of each day I'd write down what I was doing as far as darts is concerned, but when you have a condition whose short-term memory isn't always reliable, you forget stuff, and you forget stuff quite easily. That was a nice first start. So talking through it and recording it here, I'm forgetting less, because the journaling has helped, but I have found the stuff that I've forgotten and then I've remembered and then I'd forget to write it down again. Whereas with this, I've got it all. And why YouTube? Well, I can't be the only one. So anything that helps me, or even just if someone else because one of the things I've felt with difficulties in life is alone. and quite self-deprecating, like, why is this so difficult for me? Having an answer for that has made a big difference, but it's important to not let that answer turn into an excuse, because there's aspects of darts, because of my difficulties, I really hate. Like the counting is a nightmare, because all my working memory is being consumed by hold the dart, set up, line up. All of this stuff is stuff I need to keep in my head. So suddenly putting in numbers and combinations that I don't have memorized into the picture really, really just murders any rhythm or any, anything that's happening. So, yeah. Now, I'm aware I've been rambling for a little while now, so what I am going to do is I'm going to pause it there. I'm going to take you through one of the practice games I came up with, real quick, just to deal with some bad habits and issues I have with my throw, because I've talked about this in one of the other videos I've recorded, but one thing about ADHD is it can affect motor control, particularly where you need particular dexterity to carry out a number of steps in the right order. I don't fully understand all of the actual transmitter medical stuff about it, medical science, but all I know is that my brain knows the steps, it struggles to routinely execute them all in the right order. Again, short-term working memory difficulties. So every so often, what will happen is I'll be going to throw, and the execution will, all the steps will happen not necessarily in the right order. To borrow the joke from Eric Morecambe about playing all the right notes, because sometimes I'll start to release before I've thrown, and so the dart will go off down there, and you'll go, oh, that slipped. Or another one is I'll get the letting go part in the wrong part, and the dart's out here and my hand's still on it. That's exaggerated, but what tends to happen is that will result in release errors, and a release error, unless you get lucky, rarely goes well in darts. Now, they were alright, they just weren't particularly accurate. But there's one throw, and these punish it really harshly when it does happen, because the dart just goes flying off to the right, and I end up having almost a rage-induced aneurysm. Of course, it's not doing it for the camera, and an amazing first dart, but you'll see in the episodes that are going to follow my exploits trying to defeat varying levels of the target dart counter dart bot. Yeah, that was a release error. Pulled it to the left. Yeah, they're all pulled slightly to the left, and I could feel them getting caught on my index finger. And lastly, just before I get into the practice game, anyone who knows much about darts or has been playing darts for a while are probably going to be screaming at me, stop changing your darts, stop changing your throw, consistency is key, consistency is key. And normally they'd be right, and for anyone who doesn't have these particular issues affecting them, that is the advice. You find something that works, stick to it, practice it, you'll get better. One problem I have, and a lot of people with ADHD have, is too much routine. The brain gets bored, and it's important to switch it up. Like, I've not thrown these darts for months. and yet switching to them today because it's different, I'm throwing some okay ones. And other than that last one, not getting too much off-centre drift. But if I just throw these, they'll start going all over the shop. And I've found the only way to really address that, so far anyway, is keep my brain engaged, keep things interesting, make it still have to pay attention to what's going on. And that was a very errant release. That last one was pretty good, but I've been throwing with these almost all day yesterday and most of this morning. And I've found that the more I throw just the one dart, eventually performance will taper off. And if I switch to another set, it'll pick back up again. So that works for me. I'm not saying that's good advice, but if you do find a set of darts works for you for a while and then tails off, just try switching to another set. What's the worst that could happen? So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna stop this rambling introduction now, but most of this is going to be relatively raw. So it's just going to be me, this board, some darts, no doubt some bad language, and just whether it'll be games against Dartbot, games against other people with their permission, if they're happy for me to record and stream that kind of stuff, a lot of my practice drills, and just a chuck and a chat, really. So without further ado, I'll get to the quick practice game, and hopefully these will get a bit smoother and a bit less stilted as I get practice with it. So I'll be back. Okay, so with the power of editing, and by editing I mean the power of the pause button, this is, so we've got a couple of target rings and some string going down the width of the outer double ring. So the idea of this is to get the darts going around the board, but mostly straight. So there's a qualification phase. The qualification phase is like a warm-up. So I need to get 6 darts in a row, anywhere in between those tram lines down the centre. Once I've done that, I then move on to the actual next step of the game. So let's get 6 in the middle first. That's 3. And there we go. See, execution error. So rather than make you watch me try and get 6 in a row, so you get the idea. The next part of the game, once you've got the 6, is you have to go top, middle, bottom. And to progress, to succeed, you need to be above the ball, sort of in line with the ball, below the ball, but inside the lines. A perfect visit is anywhere in the fat 20 segment for top, including the double, anywhere in the bull ring for middle, and anywhere in the fat 3 segment at the bottom. If I go bing, bing, bing on those, that's a perfect visit, and I get extra points for that. I'm not going to bother scoring this, but if anyone's interested, get in the comments and I'll detail the rules for how I play this. So, top. That's going to have to be bottom. And that's outside. So because that's outside, I go again. I can't progress until I've either succeeded, as in above, around, below, or I get a perfect visit. Ooh, that's just above, just inside, that's outside, that is that release error I was talking about, that's below. So for the sake of illustration, let's pretend that second dart wasn't that terrible. And then the next phase is I need to get at least 2 darts inside that target ring. And we have succeeded, so we can move on. A perfect visit would be all 3, which is extra points. And if I go around the board in a perfect round, what I'll then do is I'll use smaller target rings. So levelling up. So then we do the other ring. I'm not going to get these. Oh, not a single one. So it's a warm-up drill just to help me iron out release errors and help me find what they call line and length. So they're all good line. If they were higher, they would have been in the ring. But 2 of them, not very good length or weight of throw. One more go at that and then move on to the next phase. Just for your benefit. Well, I've moved the ring. And I've found, see, this is the pressure element again. This is good for me because I'm recording my failures. There's one. No. And that's too high, so I've overcompensated there. So one more go at this, and then the completion of the round is another top, middle, bottom visit. It's just in, just out. And I've overcooked that one again. Pretend I put 2 darts in there, will you? Because then the completion of the round is back in the trams. That's just out. That is technically on the line. Yeah, there's just a little bit of the string caught in there, so I'm counting that. So that's complete round, and then for each round I complete, I get a point. For each success is a point, and then a perfect visit is 3 points. And I just keep a tally on a whiteboard of how well I'm doing. I normally give myself 15 minutes at this. It's only the idea is to get my eye shoulder warm and able to hit high, low, middle targets left and right on the board. There's nothing special about treble 11 or treble 6. It's just gets me around the clock face, so to speak. And again, it's about stopping the boredom, because if I just play around the world, whether it's doubles or whole segments, perfect visit, I get bored, and then I get bad at it, and as I get bad, and the worse I get, the more frustrated I get, the worse my darts become. So I've got to keep my brain engaged and not bored, because that makes the success visits ping all the right chemicals in my head. And there you have it. I don't really have a name for this game. In my head I mainly call it, like, iron out this bloody annoying release error I have, but it's not really catchy. So I'm open to suggestions. But oh, right, perfect place to leave it. Perfect last dart. So the usual like and subscribe and all that bollocks. But if you have made it this far, thank you. I'm going to, as I say, there's more stuff coming. I have a success in taking on level 6 Dartbot that I'm going to upload, as well as a longer form feature of that includes failed attempts. I think at one point I threatened myself I'm going to set my dartboard on fire. One of them was going so badly. And subsequently I've moved on to attempting to beat level 7 Dartbot. Really want to do it before Samson. Samson does darts, but he's a much better player than me. But we'll see. Just little challenges like that, again, keep me engaged, keep me coming back, even when it's really, really frustrating. So if you like what you see, or you just want to see a bit of a nerdy northerner come to appreciate this game and hopefully get better at it and better at it and better at it, or just my rambling in a monologue, stick around, subscribe. I will warn you, because of the nature of undiagnosed ADHD, this will either become a habit or it won't. I'm very aware I've had other projects, hobbies, including stuff here on YouTube in the past that initially started all gung-ho, but then it's sort of fallen by the wayside as my brain's got bored with it. But I think this time it might be a little bit different because of how variable darts is and all the variables you can change in darts, like changing my darts and changing the flights and changing the points and trying new things, coming up with new games, and having an infinite number of people in the world of online darts to compete against. So again, if you've made it this far, thank you. If you didn't, well, I'm not talking to you anyway, am I? So take care, and hopefully see you in the next one.